Hi everyone, welcome back to another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm using the Happy Home Kit to create a layout where I customize a piece of pattern paper. That's the one right there. It's already cut up, but I have another copy of it. And I'm going to customize that paper to make it a more interesting and dynamic background. This is such a great way to showcase a paper that you really love and turn it into something unique for your page. It can be a bit time consuming, but the end result is so worth it. So here's the extra piece that I have. I had thought that I was going to use this page on another layout, the layout that I did right before this, so you can check that one out on my YouTube channel. It's called Home is Where Your Cat Is. But I ended up changing my mind, and now what I'm doing is cutting out the individual pieces of this paper. So this is a really good technique to use if you really love the paper, but don't want to just use it as a plain background as it is. You want to add some texture and dimension. So all that I did here, and don't worry, I'm not going to make you watch the entire process because I pretty much fill this entire background paper with these little these little squares and rectangles from the selected piece of paper. It's a great thing to do while you're watching a show or listening to a podcast or something like that. And it can be very zen. So it can be a very mindful experience if you really get into it and if you really like those kind of soothing repetitive tasks. So the few things that I'll say before I fast forward past this is I chose my background paper, that green grid paper. I chose that based on its neutrality, the fact that I wanted something colorful behind all of these little squares. And I wanted it to be something that would pick up on the colors that I was using, but not be exactly the same. So as you can notice, some of these little rectangles do have a shade of green, but it's a darker shade of green. So it's not exactly the same. And although it does have a pattern, it's a very subtle pattern. And you're going to basically not see the pattern wherever these little rectangles are. So that way it's not going to compete with the rectangles. And it is a grid, so that does help me to keep my little rectangles nice and aligned with one another and with the overall page as well. So those are all the things that I use to decide that background paper. And then to choose this paper, it was just I really loved the paper, really wanted to use it as a background, but I just wanted it to have a little bit more pizzazz. So at this point, I have completed all of the top and all of the bottom in terms of taking out and cutting all of those little rectangles. And I'm using the full sheet as the reference for how these are supposed to go back together again. So if I didn't have two sheets of this, I might have taken a picture to remember, or I might have just cut it much more intentionally, like cutting and then placing and then cutting and then placing. But because I have the reference of the second sheet, I'm able to cut it up a little bit. There were a few pieces that I cut too quickly when I didn't realize I was going to use this technique. So I did have to cut into that reference sheet a little bit. You can see a little chunk missing from the bottom right-hand corner, just because I had not done a good job of trimming those out on my second piece of this. So then at one point, when I'm getting to the point where I'm almost done, I do take my photo. I'm using a nice big square photo. It is a 4x4 inch photo, including the trim. And that's just allowing me to hold space for where my photo is going to go because I don't want to actually fill this page up. I'm sort of using this as a reverse page. Oftentimes I have my photo and then I have all my layers underneath of the photo, but here I have the layers all around the photo, and just under the photo there'll be no layers at all. And so this is a little, I guess maybe we could call it a a reverse layered layout. I'm not sure. So now that I know that I've got a little space and I just wanted to leave an interesting shape around the photo to give me a little bit of space for a title, maybe a caption, and the tiniest little bit of embellishment. Because most of this page is going to be the beautiful textured background is going to do most of the talking for this page. So One thing that I could have done, and it might be, six on one, half a dozen on the other, but what I didn't do here was pre-distress the edges of all of these rectangles. You see, I'm just using my ATG and taking one out and placing it right back over and over and over again. Now, what I could have done here was run my distress tool around the edges of it before I put it down. I think I decided that it might have been faster to do it that way, but I felt like it would be I'd increase the chances of getting all of those squares all mixed up with each other, and I didn't want to batch it that way. It just didn't seem all that fulfilling. So what I'm doing is I'm just gluing them all down, and then I'm going to go back after they're glued down and pull up the edges of each of those squares. So you could do it if you decided to do this page, you could do it either way. And I guess it kind of depends on what kind of how you like to spend your time. Yeah, so process took me a little while longer. And now here I am placing the last of those rectangles. I'm just going to fix up the other one a little bit. And now this is basically my background. And what I'm going to do here is just go around each and every one of these and pull up the edges. And this gives a slightly different look than I would have gotten by using my distress tool. I think if I had used my distress tool, I still would have gone around and done this to each of the edges because I want all the edges to really curl up and not just be distressed, but really be lifting up off the page quite a lot. And as my friend Shauna points out there, it does add quite a bit of dimension to the page. And I think I think it's worthwhile because I did it, but it might not be what everybody out there wants to do with their Saturday morning. But one thing that I noticed is that it was a little bit more efficient to do all of one edge on all of the boxes and then go back and do another edge. So right now I'm really just doing the top horizontal line of each of those boxes, and then I'll come back and do the side and then do the other side and then do the bottom. So after about half an hour, this is the end result of my background, and I'm just going to pull it up here so that you can see it up close. Look at all of that beautiful shabby dimension. I just love how this page looks with all of those little curled up corners. It makes a huge difference. Now at this point, I have attached the photo to my background and I'm ready to design. I was thinking about using these typewriter letter stickers from the Happy Home embellishment add-on, but then I noticed this puffy sticker that says "Life is better together." And well, it says life, and then there's a sticker right below it that says "is better together." And I've decided to put the life sticker on the photo and then the "is better together" right below it. That's going to be my title. And I am just going to put a little date on this, and there's not going to be any journaling at all, although you could easily do some journaling in, especially with that grid background, in any of these spaces. If I had a lot of journaling to add here, I might have left another chunk open someplace so that I could do some additional journaling. But for me, I just put the date, which was September 6th, 2015. And it's just a picture of my daughter and I in my bedroom. And I'm just adding these 3 little dots of confetti in 2 different places on a diagonal. And I will glue those in place. And then I have challenged myself to use washi tape on every layout this month. The embellishment kit came with, the embellishment add-on came with 2 rolls of washi. I have it off to the side there. You can see them. I really like how that looks, but let's add a piece of washi. And what I've decided to do here, one of my favorite things to do with washi is to fold it, double it up upon itself, and then cut fishtail end on it, and then use it as a banner someplace. So I'm just going to tuck it right there in the opposite corner to where the title is. Thought about using a little tiny attacher staple and putting it in front of the photo, but I ultimately decided to tuck it behind the photo, and I really love how that looks. It picks up on the pink that is elsewhere in the page. and in many of those boxes. And also the photo itself has a bit of a surreal pinkish kind of hue to it. I think it has a filter on it. It's been in my camera roll for a long time, well, since 2015. And so here are the 2 pages that I made in this same scrapping session. If you didn't catch the process video for Home is Where Your Cat Is, make sure you check that one. It is in the playlist, which is linked in this video in an information card. The playlist is for the Happy Home Mercy Tiara kit. And before we jump into the photos, I just want to give a quick shout out to my amazing Patreon supporters. These folks truly help make this channel happen, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of them. Tiaras get early ad-free access to all of my process videos, plus real-time unedited versions, often in the form of live streams. And they also get exclusive behind-the-scenes content from my craft room and my process, along with sneak peeks into the Kit Club. And a big thanks to you also for watching all the way to the end. Here are the close-ups of this photo. Again, I'm Mercy Tiara, also known as Tracy, and I love sharing my full creative process with you. Be sure to check out the links at the end of this video to dive into my collection of process videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this page. Stay tuned for more scrappy information, and until next time, take care and have a really great scrappy week.